Welcome back to the Stephanie Miller Show. I'm Jody Hamilton sitting in for Ms. Miller, and look who we have, a sexy sailor. And he's back on the TV machine and everything.
Oh, do a little Nance, Trader Donald Trump, get Malcolm Nance, get Mal tonight. Listen, Malcolm Nance, Trader Donald Trump, get Malcolm Nance, it's Mal tonight.
Good morning, Mr. Nance. How are you?
I'm very well. You know, the last time you and I were together was in the back of a limousine with Steffi.
Yes, it was.
Was it going to Bill Maher?
Yeah,
That's
going
right.
to Bill Maher. That was the last time I saw you in person. Absolutely. And thank you again for giving me a ride back to your hotel to get my car and then checking on me later.
That's what limousines are for.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think you might have some things to say about Tucker Carlson and the NSA. I don't know why you would have things to say like that, but is he driving you as crazy as he's driving me?
Yeah, well, you know, I tweeted about this, and I've got some things to say. You're absolutely right about that. First off, Spy Kids was a movie, Tucker. Okay? Between him and that other idiot, Mike Cernovich, a guy who, by the way, went to officers candidate school for the Army and quit, and Tucker Carlson, who was never accepted to the CIA.
Right.
The closest he got to the intelligence community was putting in a paper application and having it rejected. Okay? So, and you know, because I guess all his Swanson dinner TV money was too much for the CIA to use as a cover story, right? So let's get some things straight here. For those of you who've been on this show, who know who I am, you all know that even though I was in naval intelligence, I worked for the National Security Agency. I have worked in the National Security Agency. I have stood watches in the National Security Agency. I have done a myriad of collection for the entire national cryptologic community, which means I know a little something about how this thing works. And it has never, ever, ever changed. Here's what we don't do. Despite what Snowden may say or that moron Glenn Greenwald, we don't collect against American citizens. And here's why. We don't have time for you. We don't. I mean, I have literally stood watches. Everything that happens in our world, even if it comes from an automated national collection system, which is a big word for automated national collection system, right? It still has to come down to a human. Okay, I learned this when I was 10, and I found a scrap of Hebrew in a newspaper, and I took it to the library and tried to decode it. It all comes out into a foreign language. At that time, it was Yiddish. So if it comes out into English, I still have to have a human at the end of that chain. And if it's Tucker Carlson has intelligence that the NSA is listening to his text messages, a person has to read those text messages. And if there's an entire chain of collection that goes through a boatload of human beings who will say, hey, wait a minute, that's Tucker Carlson's text messages. Look, I have done incidental collection. That is where I was targeting foreign entities, and lo and behold, in the middle of it comes up an American citizen. Here's what happens, and everybody in the entire intelligence world who knows what I'm talking about understands what I'm about to say. I'll be sitting there having a grand old time, typing away on my little computer, transcribing whatever, enjoying myself, drinking a tab.
Guilty.
And suddenly, ooh, English language, right?
Yep.
Hands off the terminal, phone call to the National SIGINT Operations Center, or the National Security Operations Center it's called now. Inspector General's office. I've got incidental collection. Everybody hands off the terminal until the lawyers come into the room. Then they will tell me when to stop recording. And then they'll make us all sign a boatload of goddamn statements. Okay? We don't care about you or your girlfriend, right? I got terrorists out there who need to be destroyed. I have Russian spies in the United States. We hand that stuff off to the FBI.
Right.
We don't do American citizens even for training. Tucker Carlson is not Will Smith. Okay, he is not going to have a training operation run against him using satellites and all that stuff. You know why? Because bow ties bore us. So that's all I'm going to say about Tucker Carlson. Look, the man's just a liar. Yeah. But I do have a little something I would like to say.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There was a woman who was a Trump appointee to the Defense Department who was the head of IT.
Mm-hmm.
Her name's Arrington. Mm-hmm. And if you watched Rachel Maddow last night, she was a former congresswoman, congressional candidate, lost to a Democrat, magically appears at the Pentagon at the head of cyber infrastructure and IT. She has no background in it.
Mm-hmm.
She had her top secret SCI clearance pulled yesterday, specifically related to the National Security Agency.
Oh.
Now, you guys know Nance's law, right?
Coincidence.
Coincidence takes a lot of planning.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So this Tucker Carlson comes out and says he's confirmed NSA sources, and the next day NSA and the Pentagon pull this woman's clearance. That's all I'm going to say about that. Apply Nance's laws as you see fit.
As we see fit. Yeah, I mean, what's interesting to me is, like, if they were, if it was incidental collection and then they found that he was doing something wrong, then they would have to get a FISA warrant, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, here is incidental collection, right? Putin's mistress has Tucker Carlson on in the background while she's talking to Big Daddy P, right? And the transcriber that, is just bopping along, and he's transcribing the Russian, and then he transcribes English from Tucker Carlson's radio broadcast. I don't know. I don't care.
Right.
Because we don't do this stuff.
Right.
I don't care what Snowden says. I don't care what Assange says. There are horrible people out there.
Yeah.
And when you encounter them in the intelligence collection world, this is what people do. We go, oh, yeah, I want to kill those guys. But what we don't do is, oh, what's my ex-girlfriend doing?
Right.
It just doesn't work like that. And you know who we really don't care about? Tucker Carlson.
Yes.
Quick question for you. So was this woman put in there at the NSA? Because we know Trump made a bunch of appointments at the Pentagon right before this before he was removed from office.
Right.
Did he put her there to run interference to help out with this stuff? Or do you think that
appointed in 2019.
Okay.
The moment she lost her congressional candidate or her seat to a Democrat. And you guys recall that Trump appointed a whole series of political commissars to various stations throughout the government. And it's quite possible. I mean, her job was supposed to be cybersecurity, infrastructure protection related to a public-private partnership with the Defense Department.
Right.
But more importantly, this woman would have had access to the entire cybersecurity world. I don't know whether she was there as an intelligence monitor, all right, like the guy they put in at the last minute, Kash Patel.
Yes.
You recall that guy was the guy in the White House who went to Devin Nunes and said, oh, the Obama administration's spying on you. And that guy literally went into top secret servers, took information and disclosed it. I believe that the coincidence of her having her clearance pulled, and let me tell you something, there's no coming back from a suspended clearance.
Right.
They haven't yanked it permanently. I have never seen, unless you can prove that you just happen to be in the same brothel, as a Russian oligarch, and that $1 million fell out of his wallet into your backpack, you're going to have a very hard time getting that clearance back. But the Trump administration was full of people, and I'm saying this as an intelligence professional. I had never heard the phrase unclearable until the Trump administration. In 30 years, you were never unclearable because you were never allowed in.
Right.
So the phrase was never used outside of the office that hit the big red button and threw your application into the burn bag, which is a trash bag that catches fire.
Yeah.
So now all of these unclearable people, I don't know whether Arrington was involved in this. But again, it's a ginormous coincidence
Yes.
that her clearance is pulled 24 hours after Tucker Carlson says that he's confirmed that. And that, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, would be the FBI and the Defense Investigative Service, or Criminal Investigations Department at the Pentagon, who would have determined whether classified information was revealed.
Right. Well, and the other thing with Tucker Carlson's claims is nobody else on Fox News, even the other pundits, are talking about it, which suggests that he's full of it.
My favorite part about this is it's like Tucker wants to be in the same spot Trump was in.
Uh-huh.
Right? And so he can say, ooh, daddy, they spied on me too.
Yeah.
It's like, really? So now the deep state is going after Tucker. And then it was a plot. Here's my favorite part of this story. It was a plot by NSA.
Right.
Well, I have some things you should know. First off, NSA is always run by a Navy, Air Force, or Army general. Right? Navy admiral, Air Force general, Army general. It is never run by a civilian.
Right.
So it has strict chain of command. The deputy is always a civilian who is always a careerist. Okay? There is no such thing as a person being appointed the number 2 person at NSA. But you recall, Trump tried to appoint a lawyer on the last 5 days to be the general counsel, the top lawyer, the person who would be scrubbing all of this incidental collection in his last 5 days at NSA, which is like crazy, highly unusual, right? Usually these people are just career Justice Department people. I wouldn't be surprised if this was all her setup and that Tucker Carlson has used her. She walked into her office and said, some guy in Moscow had your show on in the background, or Russia Today quoted you, and we transcribed Russia Today, right? A broadcast from Russia, which is legit. And then they transcribed Tucker Carlson, and she said, they're spying on you. Well, you probably gave up a source by doing that. So we'll find out.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, God.
So, Jim Watkins, you love this guy, don't you? I mean, I watched that. I watched the documentaries, the 6-part documentary. It was horrifying and funny, and all sorts of emotions went through my head.
Yeah.
But I mean, Mayor of Munchkinland. Now that's funny. That's funny.
Jim, let me clarify for people. Jim Watkins is the father of Ron Watkins, who the documentary Q Into the Storm with Cullen Holbrook pretty much identified him as the guy that either hijacked the original QAnon and then created all the QAnon drops as part of a live-action role-playing game. But his father is a rabid Trumpista.
Okay.
Rabid.
Yeah.
And him and his father created a website, was the only access to QAnon for almost 3 years. So everyone believes it's him.
Right.
The son and the father's philosophy. And he puts this picture of himself up. Go on Twitter and look up Jim Watkins' photo. He looks like what did I say?
The mayor of Munchkinland
Version of the mayor of Munchkinland.
Yeah.
I mean, he's weird, but even weirder, he does his eyebrows in these crazy ways of a guy named Aquino, who was a former Army psychological warfare guy, who was convicted of child molestation and runs a group called a sex cult called the Temple of Set. Oh, it's just all weird over there in QAnon land.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that I find fascinating is Republicans now do not want the word Q T-shirts, Q flags at any Trump rally. Because mainly they know that the letter Q is hot, but they've now completely adopted their entire philosophy. Interesting. I mean, the takeover of the Republican Party by Q is pretty much done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, the Tea Party was bad enough, but this is worse. It is.
This is dangerous.
It's very dangerous. I mean, trying to the logic or lack thereof of all of their conspiracy theories, and they can say it in one paragraph and believe whatever it is that they're saying to be true. And it's just, I cannot square those round holes in my brain.
But the fundamental component of it is that Donald Trump, the U.S. Armed Forces, And what they were waiting for on January 6th was to arrest and execute all liberals in America.
And Mike Pence as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. And they believe it, and they're angry that it's not happening right now. They're furious.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the CNN guy that interviewed some of the Trump people at the rally the other day, the guys were, the Civil War is coming, and this is, Joe Biden didn't get elected, done, blah, 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 blah. And it's
Donnie O'Sullivan.
Yeah. He's great.
How he keeps it, you know, that little Irish accent gives stuff, and all he has to do is look at the camera to make me laugh.
Yeah. He's been doing that.
You guys hearing yourself?
He's been doing that for CNN for about a year now, and why people keep talking to him, I will have no idea, because he has to be a known quantity in those circles now.
Yeah, but
Irish accent.
That's probably what it is.
Show.
Yeah.
That just goes after conspiracy theories, and it should be called "Oh, really, my boy?"
And he does kind of look like a hobbit too, you know. So he looks like he's easy to talk to.
Well, and then none of these people watch CNN to get the reaction that he's giving, so that's probably part of it too.
Yeah.
They don't watch CNN; they couldn't care less about it.
Yeah.
Well, Malcolm, thank you so much for calling in. Welcome back to these United States.
Yeah.
And thank you for talking to me, because it's fun to talk to.
And hopefully we can have you in studio sometime very soon.
Yes, hopefully.
I'll be back in LA very soon, so we'll all have a grand old time.
Good.
Yay.
Good. Can't wait.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Bye.
It is 50.